Thank you for watching. Please drop a like and subscribe, but most importantly your comments are appreciated. With the Russians having almost completed their encirclement and Bakhmut having served its purpose, the slow and steady withdrawal has begun. The Ukrainians have blown 2 bridges, one in the northeast and one in the west, all to slow the advance from that side and to give the Ukrainians time to effect an orderly withdrawal. The Russian chase units are the armour and they will need bridges to move quickly. That's not going to be an option here. The Ukrainians have also started moving their units from the southernmost positions towards more easily defensible residential ones further west as things start to collapse inwards. Whilst the situation has been slowly changing within Bakhmut, so the Ukrainian MOD has been reinforcing the north and south positions to prevent a full, actual encirclement. It should be noted that whilst the circle has not been closed completely, the possible escape routes are becoming more and more dangerous as Russian artillery establishes virtual control over these areas. The attack on the town of Kremovo was critical to this encirclement strategy, but quick reactions from the Ukrainian army prevented this. Then the Ukrainian 24th Brigade successfully stormed several positions southwest of Ivanovsk and managed to push the Russian forces away from the T-0504 road. This has given the defenders of Bakhmut the breathing room they need to pull out. Things have been extremely difficult for the Russians, who have discovered that advancing over fields is almost impossible given the Ukrainian defense and the incredibly poor weather conditions. Snow is thawing, there is rain, and the mud is becoming more and more of an issue. Of course, the weather will also negatively affect withdrawal, but the Ukrainian knowledge of the area should help to negate this somewhat. However, Ukrainians have been spotted leaving the area through the fields on foot, whilst tough going it has arguably become a quicker solution. As I mentioned in a previous video, the holding of Bakhmut has given the Ukrainian High Command time to construct defensive lines along the higher grounds east of Chasiv Yar and west of Bakhmut. Those withdrawn fighters are being allowed to regroup and recover behind these lines. This has been planned for a while now, with the famous 93rd Mechanized Brigade having been held back in the west of Bakhmut for some time now, being brought to the eastern section to effectively hold the line during the withdrawal. The posting by the now famous Magyar that his unit was being ordered to pull out was the first real sign that the time had come. For those of you who don't know, this gentleman has a unit providing critical air reconnaissance using drones. Some of the most startling footage of the war in this region has come from him and his team. He has provided regular updates via his telegram, and his unit is so important, capture is not an option. They are being moved to another theater in the war, and I am sure it's not the last we will see of him and his team. The general action of withdrawal has been confirmed by reports that the Russians have advanced to the meat processing plant and have entered the center of the town. It stands to reason that the only way they would ever have made it that far was if the Ukrainians decided to withdraw. They have after all had 9 months to try and get it right. Either way, I have said it before and will say it again, diminishing the Russian ability to defend is all that needs to happen now as we get closer to the Ukrainian counter-offensive. Bakhmut has been doing that job admirably. This will now move to the new defensive lines and so on, until the counter-offensive is launched. I have no doubt that the Ukrainian army would have preferred to have held this area until the offensive was ready, but in war, things seldom happen as planned. So, keep your chins up. Bakhmut is falling. But for this town, it's mission accomplished. I think one of the other extremely interesting topics relating to this town has been the internal politics playing out at the Russian High Command. Prigozhin, Tweedledee to Putin's Tweedledummer, has been complaining again. In his most recent tirade, he speaks about what would happen if Wagner was forced to withdraw, the result being that Ukraine would be pushing the Russian army back to the border and that the war would be lost. He goes on to further describe Wagner as the cement that holds the entire Russian war effort together. Like most complaints seen by Wagner, he ends the video by referring to a lack of equipment and supplies from the Army High Command. If we just unpick this. Clearly, despite saying he wouldn't, Prigozhin is again blaming the Army High Command for a lack of supplies and potentially defeat. He is again ridiculing the army's ability to wage war on Ukraine, not an unfair comment it has to be said. He also acknowledges, what has been said for a while, that there is a more than average chance for Wagner to be removed from the battlefield. The army clearly has no love for him or his mercenaries and would sooner see them all gone than. But his seemingly unending ability to kill his men has seen the progress in Bakhmut that is much needed by Russia and those others desperate for their success. Subsequent investigation has yielded that this video is in effect old, yet only recently released. Which tells me that he may be trying to circumvent the agreement to not speak out. The old, someone else released it, Mr. President, not me shtick. The Russian mill bloggers led by Igor Gherkin have been less than complimentary, calling for Prigozhin's immediate replacement and an end to the shameless self-promotion. Furthermore, he calls out the reckless tactics that have cost so many dead and that losing Wagner whilst having some negative effect will not be significant at all. Funnily enough, he calls for the immediate replacement of Shoigu as well. Either way, I am expecting Prigozhin to fall from a window soon and his troops brought under army control. However you cut it, I expect Bakhmut to finally lead to the destruction of Wagner one way or another.